G'day jabronis of the NPL, it is your Power Rankings host here, TheVerd, and welcome to Week 11. Now, we weren't able to do Week 10 due to a lot of people struggling with uploads, so it was hard for us as analysts to be able to process all the information. So basically what we're going to be doing with Week 11 is kind of surmising the last 2 weeks worth of what's been going down, and just showing the rankings. And these are very important rankings because it's only a couple of weeks left of the season, and so playoffs are becoming ever closer, and getting into the playoffs is going to be very hard for a lot of teams, and one of those teams is going to be fighting for a playoff spot. I think he's secured his playoff spot, but I'm not sure because sometimes people don't update the tabs and it's very hard to keep track, but I'm pretty sure he's secured playoffs. I'm joined by Trev the Queen.
Alright, dude. Really? Alright, but
Hey.
anyways.
I could have been like, we're joined by Trev, the King.
Alright. But in all seriousness, it is your boy TrevCL, not the King. I haven't gone by the King for a while. But
it's all I remember you by.
It's good to be here, Bird. It's very good.
Now, Trev and I go way back. We don't even know each other during the NPL when it first kicked off. I actually met Trev when he subbed in for a guy in a league, and he literally beat me because I think he crit me with Aerodactyl.
Yeah.
Or something like that. It was some bullshit. And then that was when I first became affiliated with Trev being the Hacks Lord.
Yep.
But
good times.
No, we're good buddies, and he's a very good battler, as you guys know, the coach of the Atlanta Braviaries. And he is here joining me again as a special guest coach, and we're going to be discussing the 16 teams. As you can see there, we have a very similar bottom four, the only difference really being the 13th spot there. But can we maybe just take a sec to just discuss, I guess, the bottom three teams, because it has changed a little bit over the last few weeks. The one constant has been the Detroit Leopards, who seem to be kind of MIA now in the league. I think they've forfeited all their last battles, so there isn't really much to say on them. But just talking about the Jersey Dwellers and Austin Toros, I just want to say for the Toros that the fact that Rob isn't going to be coaching them anymore from the looks of it, and it's going to be Carney, I think put like a major dent in their chances, I think, this season. No disrespect to Carney, I know he's a very good battler, but Rob, when he's on his game, is very, very hard to stop, and he had a very solid team, I felt. And although his run was a bit difficult, I think he definitely could have brought this team to playoffs. It's a bit of a shame that he won't be able to do that this season. And as for Cloud and the Jersey Dwellers, they've been a bit up and down. They've had some tough opponents, but at the end of the day, I think definitely this is a season for him to learn and build on. Definitely been a bit of a learning curve. I've known Cloud to be in other leagues where he's done quite well, as you would remember him in the PMC. He had a very solid team and battled very well, but I think this league has been definitely a bit of a step up for him, but I think it's also good for him because it's going to help him grow and develop in future seasons if they let him back. But do you have anything you want to say about the Toros and the Dwellers?
Just that the fact that the main reason I have the Toros below the Dwellers is not only just the fact that the Toros have one less win than the Dwellers, but also the fact that just it seems from talking with Carney that he's kind of just going to finish out the season, not trying terribly hard because, we're all busy now this time of year, but, he's just probably not going to try as hard as, somebody like Jolt, who he faces, or Razor he might face in Week 12. But, and then Cloud, it was a tough season for Cloud. Cloud has been, unfortunately, guaranteed knocked out of the playoffs. As his record isn't really the undoing, but it's his minus 19 differential that really undid him, as really he just kind of got bopped around in his division. Outside of his division, actually did pretty okay, but just in his division, which just happens to be where I reside as well, he just kind of got bopped around by both me, Maddie, and Bidoof, pending the last Bidoof versus Cloud matchup.
Yeah, I think he had like 2 instances this season where he was 5-0'd, and I think he also got 6-0 swept at one point, so
yeah,
that is always going to be a bit detrimental to the differential. But we have a lot of similarities in our picks here, guys, but one of them coming up that we have a difference in is who we feel is the last team in the bottom 4. I still have the Phoenix Sunflora. Don't get me wrong, Riz has been winning, that's great, cool, but Razor still has the better record, and I know that Razor, in the future is looking to bring memes, but I'm looking at this more on, like, heading into playoffs. Both of these guys, I don't feel really have much. Razor kind of doesn't really have a chance either. Like, I think he needed to win at some point to make it through, but I don't think he can now, and so he's like bringing memes, but also Riz. So I was more just looking at these two based on record. One is 5-7, one is I think either 4-7 or 4-8. So looking in total, like I think they were both 4-7 going into this week. I can't remember.
I think Riz is 3-8.
Yeah, so 3-8 against 4-7, and so for me, I just felt there's not really much separating these two. They've always been kind of in the same area as each other. They both picked up a few more wins late in the season, but also I feel, like you were saying with the kind of Carney factor, a lot of people late in the season aren't really focusing too much on their teams anymore, and so it gives people like Riz and Razor a chance to pick up some cheeky wins at the end of the season. But I think that they're still probably just the two guys. Like I have Razor just above Riz in the rankings, but is there any reason why you have Riz above Razor?
The reason why I have Riz above Razor is that both players have been playing, like, they've been really hot, but in terms of results, the results have been shown up for Riz. As you know, Riz is 3-0 in his last 3 games. Now, one of them was a forfeit victory against Rob. However, I feel confident that Riz would have won that game because it felt like Rob wasn't really even preparing for that game. And as we found out, he would just leave the MPL after that week. And another reason is that Riz has known since week 8 that he's been eliminated, where Razor, is obviously going to be a little bit more deflated after just figuring out now that he's eliminated after losing his 7th game, which really ended him. And that's why, like, I feel like Riz has more motivation to win this last game than Razor does, because Riz had no motivation to win from the very beginning, yet he's still been trying his best to win these last games. So I feel like he has the more motivation to win this final game than Razor does. And just on top of that, I feel like, with Riz's new and improved team, I feel like he has a way better team that he's more suited for. And I feel like, again, luck has always come into the discussion. Like, for example, with Togue of the Arizona Caravanas, he's been pretty unlucky this season, but it kind of comes into the conversation with Riz as he's been pretty unlucky as well. And I kind of just factored that in a little bit. And, while that's not enough to boost him above somebody like Bidoof and the Boston Bidoofs, it is, for me, enough to boost him above Razor and put Razor at number 13 and Riz at number 12 for me.
That's completely understandable, and I do agree. His trades and transactions have been very good for his team. Definitely makes it a lot more threatening. I really like the way he's been using Gator as well. Like, you see Gator normally just being a classic Dragon Dance and do shenanigans set, but he's been using like with rest talk and stuff, which I think is a really cool way of looking at Pokemon like that. So he's definitely trying to be a bit innovative late season, which is still pretty good because like it builds his momentum for next season. I think definitely next season, he's going to be a lot better if he does come back. But like you said, you have him at 12th. I have Razor at 12th. So moving into that next group of 4, we both have the Boston Beatles chilling at 11th. You messed him up pretty bad this week. I'm pretty sure you battle beat it. Yeah, it was the Tank Zard put in the finest of work. I don't necessarily think Beato's been playing that bad this season. I think what's really hurt him is, like you're kind of saying with Cloud, his interdivisional matches have really hurt him. Both times against Maddie, and I think you beat him both times as well when you guys played. I'm not sure about the first game, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so having those just like straight up 4 losses from that is not ideal for Bidoof. And then I think he hasn't been too bad this season. Like a lot earlier in the season, I was thinking, damn, he's really good. But then we headed into divisional matches, and he just got taken down a lot of pegs. But I definitely think that he had a solid team this season, and I think his chances of making playoffs are incredibly slim, if not null, at this point. I'm not sure the gap between him and you with like a week or so to go, but I think honestly though he can be pretty proud of his performance. I think he's done a lot of very, very solid battles, and I think he'll be welcome back next season.
Definitely. And one thing to point out about the playoff, I have actually already clinched my playoff. However, there is that final spot between Bidoof, Danza, and Dallas, and Cheese technically hasn't clinched, but basically if Cheese either gets 1 kill in the game against Riz, or if Bidoof loses 1 Pokemon in the game against Cloud in week 12, then Cheese will also clinch a playoff spot. So it's really basically realistically between Bidoof, Danza, and Dallas. And for my rankings, we kind of have the next two reversed. I have Danza at 9, you have Danza at 10, and then we have Dallas the other way around. The reason why, even though Dallas has the best shot of making the playoffs out of these three, because here's what needs to happen. If Dallas wins, Dallas is in the playoffs. If Bidoof wins and Dallas loses against Danza, then Bidoof's in the playoffs. Danza technically has the worst chance out of either three to make the playoffs, because not only does he need to win, but he needs to win by at least 2-0, on top of the fact that he needs Bidoof to lose, which would guarantee him the playoff spot at 5 and 7, which is pretty incredible, because it was looking last week before his game against Cheese that he was completely out, and that 0 for 5 Will-O-Wisp game really boosted his morale. And like I said, even though he has the worst chance out of the three of them, I really like his team. I think he's motivated the most out of all three, because kind of speaking to Dallas, he doesn't really feel like making the playoffs, and like Bidoof hasn't really been that active, so I don't know if he's like super like excited about making the playoffs either. He obviously probably wants to, but he's not like super animated. Like Danza is very happy that he has a chance at the playoffs, so, and he's going to try his best. So, and also the fact that Cloud actually said that he's going to try his best as well week 12, even though he's out of the playoff race, really bodes well for Danza's chances, I feel.
Yeah, no. Honestly, like, when it came to doing these two, I realized the situation, and I'm more than happy for either of these guys to win and go through. Like, it doesn't bother me out of those three which one of them goes through. I guess the reason why I put the Swampert above the Nidokings was literally just logic. Like, logically speaking, all Dallas has to do is beat Danza, and he's there. He's done it. It's as simple as that. And as much as I do love the underdog story of the whole thing of Danza winning, and that's why I have him like above Bidoof, and like, because I think that, I see I see Danza having a better chance than Bidoof of actually making it through. I just feel that logic dictates me to say that Dallas is basically, it's his playoff spot to lose, literally. Like, all he has to do is win one more battle and he makes it into playoffs. Yeah. And to be fair, as much as he's been a bit distant with it and he's been having, his own issues, I think when it comes to it, if he knows that it's an important battle, he will have to bring his A game. He can't just, dolly around and assume like, oh, we can just do this for fun, because Danza is going to be playing for keeps. Like, he's going to be going as hard as he can to try and get through. So I think it will actually bring out the best in Dallas, and I really hope it is a good battle, because it's an incredibly important battle. And like you said, if Cloud can get the job done against Bidoof, or at least knock Bidoof down a few pegs, and that definitely opens the door then for basically Danza versus Dallas to be potentially, I think, the match of the week, because it has so many playoff implications. And although I have San Antonio above Los Angeles, it is literally only because, guys, Dallas has a much better chance. I love the underdog story, but Dallas has a much better chance of progressing. But speaking of progressing, the last team in this group of four, I actually have, we again flipped it. I have you, and you have the Gators. Now this is completely fine. I understand it. It's all good. The reason why, I get that you've secured your playoff spot and that you should be above the Gators. The reason why the Gators are above you is, well, you both have pretty much the exact same record. He has a better differential, so like statistically wise, he would be above you regardless. But I think the big thing as well is, like I was saying with Dallas, is that, as tough as the matchup is for top tier boy in his last game, it's again his playoff spot to lose. Like, if you guys watched, I think, the video that Jolt did, all the Feraligators really have to do at this point is just win their last game, and they're pretty much, I believe, secured of that playoff spot, depending on results with the Staraptors, potentially. But I'm pretty sure all he has to really do is win that last game, and he's pretty much it. And I get that Togue is going to be a ridiculous opponent, but at the same time, I feel that the Gators have been the real underdog team of the season. Like, nobody expected them to be as good as they have been, and as competitive as have been. Obviously, last week against Gypsy, things did not really go to plan. But I mean, Gypsy is in ridiculous form right now.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when you're playing somebody who's in that kind of form, you're not really like, you're going out there hoping, but you know. And I think this last match against Toge, he is going to put his all into it. And I think the opportunity for him to go into the playoffs, because like, don't get me wrong, the other reason why is because I think that Top 2 is going to play harder in this last game. It's like with you, like you've already got your playoff spots secured, so you don't need to take as many risks. You might bring some cool sets like your stockpile, Hippo again, and whatnot. But for him, he really has to be innovative and go for it. And you know, this is more the underdog story that I see myself backing, because yeah, Danza has a good chance, but to be able to knock off somebody like Jolt to get into the playoffs, for me, just seems like it's a bigger like kind of target, and if he could do it, that would be amazing. But let me know what you think about that.
So one of the reasons, yes, was that I am in the playoffs currently, and as of right now, and he is not. But although technically, as of now, he is in the playoffs. But here's the thing: Jolt technically still has 2 games to play. One of them is against Carney, and one of them is against Abe. The reason why another reason I have him below me is I just feel like his chances of making the playoffs are honestly probably about as likely as Danza's, so to speak. Just because, let's just say Jolt goes 1-1 in his final 2 games and maintains that 7 differential. Let's say he wins 1-0 and loses 2-0. That means if Seb loses to Toge, he's out automatically. He's just done. And if Jolt was to win out, Jolt will guarantee get the spot unless Sebastian beats Toge by a ridiculous amount. Because like I'm assuming Jolt's going to win more than 1-0 against Carney. Nothing against Carney, but Jolt beat him 5-0, and they, you know, this is a week 6 matchup, so they have a bit different of teams. But I have no way of thinking that he would. It would be anything different than last time. Maybe like a 3-0 or a 4-0 instead of a 5-0. But like I said, if Jolt wins out and wins like 4-0 against Carney and like 1 or 2-0 against Abe, that means Seb is going to have to win by a ridiculous amount against Toge. And you said he would have to innovate, and that's been one of the drawbacks, one of the negatives of Seb. You know, one of the criticisms of Seb this season is that he's, you know, Jolt was the same way during season 2 of the NPL. He's a little still too used to standard OU, and he brings pretty standard sets, or he expects standard things. Now, sometimes he does bring some non-standard sets, which, you know, it's cool and stuff, but I just don't know if he has the innovation to beat Toge by a large enough differential like he needs to. Now, if he does win and Jolt loses 1 game, then he will have knocked out Jolt, and Jolt will lose the playoff spot if Jolt loses and Seb wins. But I don't know. I just feel like Jolt's chances of making the playoffs are a lot higher than Seb's, and I feel like just because of that, because I feel like the chances of Seb making playoffs is pretty slim. I just decided, I don't know, it might seem a little biased towards myself, which, you know, that's fair enough. That's a very valid argument, but I just feel like his chances of making the playoffs are very slim, and that's why I put him below me personally.
That's totally fair enough. And I mean, like, again, it really is a situation where if Jolt loses, that opens the door for Seb, but Seb still does have to beat Toge in order to do it. There's no 2 ways about it. He has to beat Toge, or else, like, none of this is really going to happen. So, I mean, like, there's a few really nice, tantalizing, like, playoff pictures that are kind of, like, little stories that are writing themselves, and it'll be interesting to see how these battles go, but definitely I'd say 2 of the, like, 3 really, I think there are 3 big matches to look out for this week, being, you know, obviously, Abe against Jolt, Seb against Toge, and Dallas against Danza. I think those 3 really shine out for me as, like, the ones where it's like, yeah, damn, like, these are going to be the great battles, but moving up, obviously, as we are now into the next group of 4, we both agree on the next, or we agree on the rest of our picks together. So, Phoenix Suncone have been pretty solid all season. They haven't really been, like, exceptionally good, but they've been good enough to just keep on trucking. And like you said, they really just got to get like one kill, I'm pretty sure, and they secure their playoff spot. So it's looking pretty good for Cheese. He's been solid all season. I don't really think there's much else really to say about him right now. I think his playoff spot is pretty much secured.
Yeah.
As it stands, but the next two are very definitely teams that I would like to kind of discuss a bit more in depth if we can, because I feel their match is pretty much the one that almost decides who is going up and who could possibly be knocked out. So there's definitely a lot of implications going into this game between the Breloms and the Staraptors. How do you feel about the two teams heading into it?
You know, this is a very interesting matchup because in round one of this matchup, you know, Abe pulled off a very stunning... well, it was kind of stunning. You know, Abe is a good battler, but, like, Jolt at that point had never been 500 or worse that late into his season, and that was his... You know, that loss made him 2-2, so that's what made it so stunning. It showed that Jolt, after 3+ seasons of such good success, of, like, winning more than well over 70% of his games, that, you know, he was mortal, just like the rest of us. And that's really what propelled Abe. Now Abe did go into a losing streak after that, but then he's roared back up. Abe is, I would argue, is the hottest team in the league, because I think he's actually won 5 games in a row, if I'm not mistaken, because he was 2-4 at one point, and now he's 7-4. Yeah. So
there's only one team.
Oh yeah,
he's definitely up
okay.
There.
One, he's the hottest team in the league, not called the Sydney Sharpedos. Let's revise that. There is no team that has ever been hotter in any league than the Sydney Sharpedos. But that being said, I really have confidence that Jolt can pull off this upset, because again, he has 2 more games to play. If he wins out, he will overtake Abe, I believe. Let me look at the standings real quick. Basically,
it's very close between them.
If he just wins, if he wins, even if he wins 1-0 the next 2 weeks, he will have tied him, which actually would own the tiebreaker, which is division wins and division losses. So Joel actually probably has to beat him in differential if he wants to overtake the division, just because Abe does own that second tiebreaker after differential. But there's a very likely chance that there's a better chance that Jolt could win out, and then both him and Abe make the playoffs over Seb. So that I honestly find that as the most likely scenario, if I'm actually going to be honest, because I don't know, I just don't have confidence. If Seb gets, you know, Lady Luck in his favor like he did against Togue the first time, then so be it. But I feel like Abe and Jolt are going to be the last two playoff spots secured in that conference.
Because one thing to note, though, is that if Jolt beats Abe, say 2-0, and Seb can beat Togue 2-0, then Seb will actually sneak above Abe by 1 differential. So that's how close this is. Like, I think definitely, I totally agree, Abe is by far the most other than Gypsy, is the most in-form battler right now. Those swaps that he made a few weeks ago have been, like, crucial to his team. He's been battling exceptionally well, and I think he should go on to beat Jolt, and that then puts the ball really in Seb's court, to saying that, you know, like, if you can beat Togue, you pretty much made it. But this, I don't know, it's going to be interesting. At the same time, the thing as well is that if Jolt gets a big win, but then takes a big loss from Abe, there is actually the potential that Seb can take like a 1-0 loss and potentially still go through. So there's a lot of different variables. I just, like, as you can see from the top 4 here, we agree that the Brisbane Breloms definitely deserve to be up there. They should beat the Toronto Raptors. I'm going to back them to beat the Toronto Raptors with the form they've been in, and they should be able to clinch their division with that win. And then that match between the Gators and the third place team here, the Carvanas, is going to be interesting. But obviously, like, the top 3 hasn't really changed the majority of the season. I'd say it's really been more of a top two. Like, Toge's been kind of there. He's kind of like that third wheel in the relationship. He's not really in it, but he's like up there. Like, he's been battling fantastically, and if he was in any division other than Gypsies, he'd be the best player in his division. But unfortunately, he's in Gypsy's division, and that's where 2 of, I believe, his 3 or 4 losses have come from for the season. He's had 3 losses, and 2 of those have been at the hands of Gypsy, and obviously one was to the Hacks against Seb. So it shows that he has had a fantastic season to date. And, you know, it's just been a wild ride for him. I think he has been definitely the 3rd best battler, though, all season. And I think the thing is, he was in a pretty tricky division as well, so I think to get the result that he has in the division that he's been in has been very solid for him, and I definitely see him being very solid in the playoffs as well. It'll be interesting to see how he matches up against, you know, Abe and Maddie, and then Gypsy possibly again, because one thing that has been noted is that he has struggled a little bit against some tougher opponents, and it has to be said that his match against Jolt was a bit controversial when it happened, so I'm interested to see how he handles the tougher opponents in the future. But we do have a perennial top 2, which is obviously St. Louis and Sydney. How do you feel, though, that Maddie has been going ever since that loss, I guess, against Gypsy back in, I think it was round 9? Do you feel like he's recovered?
I feel like he's recovered well, but I don't know. I just don't see the same Maddie, personally, just since that loss. Now, obviously, you know, he played the 2 bottom teams in his division, which, you know, wasn't like, they weren't like terribly bottom feeder, because, you know, they were still good players in Bidoof and Jersey, but it kind of feels like he's just been going through the motions. I didn't see any stellar plays that needed, I mean, not that any needed to be made, but I was seeing some crazy predictions from him before, and it just feels like, you know, he's just kind of going through the motions right now. And just to let everybody know, but our match next week, or actually, I guess, yeah, this next week, is actually just going to be kind of a for fun meme match, just because I really don't care where I'm placed in terms of seeding. I know I made the playoffs. Maddie knows he's already the number 1 seed by far in the conference, so, you know, so obviously that's not going to boost his ranking anymore. Not that he would, because, you know, Dylan has confirmed clinched the undefeated season due to Cypher forfeiting the rest of his games. The reason why, honestly, you say that these 2 have been the perennial top 2, I was actually pretty close to putting Maddie number 3 and Toge number 2, and I'll explain why. I know this is, you know, Maddie's number, you know, he's 10-1, only lost to Gypsy, probably one of Gypsy's closest calls all season. And, you know, Toge hasn't been able to touch Gypsy so far. One of the reasons that I still kept Maddie above was obviously their strengths of schedule were the same. Maddie really hasn't had any good luck, but he hasn't had any bad luck. And Toge's luck, as known, has been pretty bad. And Toge also, you know, all 3 of his losses were in his division. So outside of his division, he's 6-0. So it could be possible that if he was in any other division, he would have been the 2nd best team, guaranteed, even better than Maddie. But one thing that keeps Maddie above Toge in my books is that Maddie has an easier road to making the championship than Toge. Because if you think about it, Toge has to go through Jolt, Abe or Seb, or, you know, any of those 3, 2 of those 3, and then he has to go through Dylan, guaranteed. He has to go through probably at least Dylan, unless Dylan, you know, somehow is upset in the first round, or he has to go through, and he has to go through one of Jolt, Seb, or Abe. So, you know, that's a very tough 2 games to go through. He's going to have to knock off Gypsy, unless, again, Gypsy is somehow upset in the first round, which anything's possible in these playoffs, as I well know. But Maddie just has an easier road to the championship, because, you know, he has to go through me and then one of Danza, Dallas, and Maddie just has the easier road. That's why I keep Maddie at number 2 because I feel like he has the better shot of winning a championship. Because really, Maddie's true competition is going to be Gypsy, whereas Togue has Gypsy plus a lot of other supporting cast that could ruin his chances at his first championship appearance. But yeah, that's just my say on the matter. And then obviously Gypsy is Gypsy, so he's number 1, obviously.
Yeah, I think we have to kind of just highlight how good Gypsy was this season. Like, I'm not trying to, toot his horn or anything like that, but legit, like, unbeaten for an entire season is ridiculous in any league. Doesn't matter if it's, an 8-week league, like, ridiculously long season, like 12 weeks running. Like, sure, the Cypher game, like, but let's be honest, against Cypher, we knew he was going to win regardless. So, massive plaudits to him. I think he was a bit of an unknown quantity heading. To me, he was a bit of an unknown quantity heading into it. I think in my initial power ranking, when I first saw Gypsy, week 1, I actually put him 6th. I thought the Jersey Dwebbles were better than him. I thought the Austin Toros were better than him heading into the season. And how times have changed. Both Parker and Bob at the start of the season had this guy at number 1, and I was skeptical. I will be the first to tell you I was skeptical. I don't care if he was Australian. I was skeptical because I didn't know him. I didn't know how good he could be. Like, I'd heard about he was doing alright in the Summer Showdown, not Summer Showdown, the March Madness tournament. He did okay in that. But I never expected this. Like, and he's a great guy in battles and out of battles as well. Like, he's just been, I guess, a breath of fresh air into the NPL this season, and I guess we hope we can keep him around for a while, but he has been definitely a great addition. Anything you kind of want to add to
just to say that, yes, in coming into the season, he was an unknown quantity, something that was unknown, but it was actually during the Summer Showdown, which kind of like the setting up process, which was about 4 weeks into the season when we started setting up the Summer Showdown league, and then it was revealed that his record in league at that time was like 52-4, and that's when we realized, oh man, this guy is actually really good. I mean, he was already 4-0 in the NPL at that time, so we obviously knew he was pretty good, but we did not know that he was 52-4 good, and I believe he's actually only lost 1 league game in the 2.5 months since then. So he's got.
Yeah, I think he lost.
Yeah, it was actually funny. Funnily enough, it was against Seb the same week that he actually played Seb this past week. So, I think the dude had like a 30-game winning streak or something in league, which is insane when you think about it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And like when you watch his videos as well, I think he's one of the if like you aren't really fully into competitive Pokemon, you need to like watch somebody. Just watch the way that he talks about his plays. Like he actually legit thinks about through every option and has a way to deal with them. I mean, my personal favorite bit is when he says that something doesn't matter, because it clearly sometimes it just makes me giggle when he says that, because I mean, people will say he got a bit lucky in a few games. Like against Abe, there was a little bit of hacks that could have shifted the game either way, but I think it really didn't change the course of the battle that badly. And I think really what's just been happening is that he is one of those players that, and he's similar to Maddie, but I think he's just a bit above Maddie in the sense that he will make the play that basically gives him the best chance of winning. It's not about what play is best. Like, if you have a Pokemon that can kill a Pokemon right there and say, yep, I'm going to kill it, that's definitely best. He thinks long term. He says, okay, if I do this, then it's going to lead to that. And I don't want to have that happen. So I'm going to make the best long term play and kind of go from there. And I think that's what really sets him apart from a lot of these other players is, a lot of them, especially in that bottom 8, not including you, but in that bottom 8 where they will think like, yep, I'm just going to kill what I see in front of me because that's the smart thing. Whereas like he thinks so many turns in advance, knowing that, okay, in order for this thing to win, these certain events need to happen. If they happen, then it's all good. And I think just having that kind of mindset is something that a lot of people don't have, and it's a very, very good quality that he possesses. And I think enough ass kissing. Like the fact of the matter is, guys, he's number 1 for a reason. 12-0 with a plus 36 differential. Let that just sink in for you. The height of that differential there. I don't think he's rarely been very badly tested, I want to say. I think the closest he actually got tested, truth be told, was actually by Rob when they played. Like, his match against Rob was actually a very, very close battle that he could have easily lost if Rob made a couple of better plays. I think his match against Maddie was great, but I think he was also quite in control of that one. So, in my opinion, I guess you would agree, it is his championship to lose heading into the playoffs. Obviously, we will have a Week 12... Well, the Week 12 power ranking won't really be that in-depth. I think what will just happen next week after the Week 12 matches is from power rankings, I'll go to a bit more of like a playoff picture kind of chat where we're looking at the teams that are going into the playoffs and looking at how they go. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me this week, Trev. I really do appreciate having another coach here throwing their opinions out, and best of luck.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure being here, and hopes that if you return next season as an analyst, we can do the same. Well, actually, hopefully not, because hopefully we will have analysts who will.
I don't know. Yeah, the game plan is I have already lined up another analyst that's going to join me for a bit of a bigger series in power rankings. Fingers crossed, we'll see what happens. If the powers that be, aka God Jolt, lets it happen. But anyway, that is going to do it for us, guys. If you did enjoy this video, make sure that you like it. Make sure you comment down below telling us how you feel about our rankings. And also, because the playoff is so close, let us know the teams that you feel are going to make it into playoffs. Because right now, it's still very line ball with a lot of divisions and a lot of the wild card slots. That's probably the most hotly contested part of this whole thing, is those wild card slots, because it is very, very close. Also, subscribe to the MPL channel if you haven't already. Go check out Trev's channel as well, as he sometimes uploads videos, every now and then. Yeah, when he's feeling like it. And obviously the Atlanta Braviaries securing playoffs, so you'll definitely want to go watch his playoff journey, because if you know anything about last season, Trev and playoffs go very well together. I think the last 2 times I've seen you in a playoff situation, you've won both.
Yes. Now, ironically, my last,
Actually, no, sorry. That would be wrong because of the D-League, so we can't count that.
Well, that was special circumstances for that, but...
Yeah, okay. We'll go with that. Anyway, that is going to do it for us, guys. I'm TheVerd, this has been Trev, and we out of here.